guess the question I wanted to ask you is now that there's a parting of the ways between you and battle rap, and like you say, you've kind of moved on onto your own creative endeavors. Is what did you take away from it? What were some of the lessons that you learned in terms of how it tested you, or what it forced you to try and get better at in order to then become a better musician, writer, performer, whatever the case may be?
For sure, loads. So I think the first one would be it forces you to hold yourself to a much higher standard in terms of rhyming and structure and lyrics and all that kind of stuff. Like in terms of the battle rappers are like the most advanced lyricists in existence in terms of like your kind of top tier battle rappers are doing the most complicated things with the English language imaginable, and having been a part of that and witnessed it and nerded out over it at the highest level means that the bar in my head of like what the ideal is much higher, I think, than it would have been had I never done battle rap. So that's one thing for sure. Another would be like in terms of live performance, I've been on stage in a bunch of different capacities throughout my life as a musician, as an actor or whatever, and battle rap is by a considerable margin the most terrifying of all, because not only do you have to win over the room, and not only do you have to perform and get people on your side, but there's also someone else trying to turn the room against you and laughing at your expense and oohing and ahhing at your expense. So I think it really hardens you to being able to step on stage and kind of be composed and hold your own. So that when I do like my own solo gigs, or when I'm playing with a band and it's a bigger stage or a bigger crowd than I'd normally be used to, I feel like I'm much less nervous than I would be, because I remember like, oh, I did a rap battle at like Ministry of Sound, so like that, you know, compared to that, you know, this is okay, this is chill. And also like the other thing would probably be like the culture around it. I don't know if you noticed or remembered, but there was definitely a period of time where like the level of like hate comments that I'd get on YouTube would be absolutely insane. And that's one of those things where like the very first time it happens, you're like, oh god, this is horrible, and you spend a couple of days feeling awful about yourself because you're reading all of these things, but then you very, very quickly just learn to kind of laugh about it and get used to it. And so that then made me pretty kind of impervious to being dogpiled on the internet or whatever, and like that I'm not too worried or fixated about negative attention either. So those would probably be my three takeaways. You get held to a higher standard of writing, you become like a more comfortable performer, and you are not as bothered by people talking shit about you.
I'm still working on that last one, but the other two, I can see your perspective. And again, it's weird for me being on the outside, because I look at battle rap as being like a performance rather than a strict competition, and it's incumbent upon you to just come and make sure your half of the dance is completed, as it were. You know what I mean? Whereas a song or performing a live set, I see as being more daunting, because not only are you trying to replicate and convey everything that you put into the song in the recording element, you're trying to reach people in a crowd when the circumstances are different. Like, people are physically there to see you, as opposed to they might have heard you in passing or clicked on your song and just checking you out. Like, I feel like the expectations are a little bit different, because even within battle rap, the reason they're there is different, and therefore the expectations are a little bit different, to your point. But I feel like from a creative standpoint, more of yourself is there on a song. Like, if people really don't resonate with you on stage in that situation, that sounds terrifying to me, as opposed to someone just doesn't laugh at a joke I wrote.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I mean, that's true, but I guess for me it just doesn't feel that way so much. So like with battle rap, I was very, very competitive. So, and obviously there's different approaches. Like, some people do rap battles and they're just there to rap and show off, and it's like two guys and they're both rapping and showing off, and like, you know, they're all, you know, reacting to each other's bars, and it's all like, you know, there's that kind of like really cool, nice, pleasant vibe to it. Whereas I kind of always went in with, even though I was being quite lighthearted, I always went in with a very competitive, like, no, I need to win, I need to surgically dismantle, and I need to find the right angle to get under the, and then like, I think there's also the element, on the flip side, where you're kind of aware that there will be people in the crowd who would love to see you get bodied, and there'll be people in the crowd who would just love to see someone get bodied. So like if you go to a boxing match, people are just really excited when someone gets knocked out. People go crazy. So like you don't want to be the guy who gets knocked out and everyone goes up in flames, being like, oh my god, how entertaining to see this guy being completely torn down and humiliated. So I think there's that kind of underlying element. But then also in the terms of like doing a solo show, I don't feel like I've never turned up to a solo gig and felt like anyone was rooting for me to fail, which certainly helps put you at ease a little bit more. And then it's also it feels a little bit more like an opportunity. You kind of maybe have a neutral room and you've got nothing to lose, but you've got everything to gain from like, if you can connect with them or win them over, the worst thing they can do is just not be that arsed and just, chat amongst themselves, which is fine. Whereas like in a rap battle, you really do have everything to lose.
You've walked into rooms before where people weren't rooting for you to fail? What's that like?
When people weren't rooting for me to fail?
Yeah, I walk into every room and someone's trying to shoot me. I need to know, what's it like to be just even indifferent towards?
I don't believe that. Well, you book yourself a gig opening for some random artist who you've never heard of, and no one in that crowd will have heard of you, and then you'll have maybe 10 or 15 people early on in the gig who've bothered to come down for the support act, who are completely indifferent to your existence, and then you can see if you can reach out to them and offer them something that they might find interesting or whatever, and maybe you'll surprise yourself. It's great, it's good fun.